What's going on, family? Welcome back to Israel's Movie Reviews, and today we're going to be discussing Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. And this film was a magnificent sequel. And I look forward to this movie because of the last one. The original film was amazing. But the question was, does this film live up to it, to the sequel, right? And this one tries to do a bit too much that doesn't work well, but the core strengths are there. The summary of this film, basically, in a nutshell, is the Guardians of the Galaxy are hired by a leader of a well-planned sovereign race to destroy a monster to protect their valuable batteries. And you get the whole crew involved in the movie. And let's get straight into it, right? The original Guardians of the Galaxy was quite a fresh entry into the crowded world of Marvel at the time, right? With so many famous characters we at least heard of, and so many films crashing into one another with crossovers, references, solo films. And on the arrival of this film, we got that nostalgic feeling, because it brought us back to so much. It had great humor, it had great fun. It wasn't a lackluster film. There was nothing about this film that was boring or unentertaining. It was a grade A film. James Gunn, as the director, knocked it out the ballpark. And it gave us for some great entertainment. So along came the sequel, which puts a lot of pressure because, most importantly, you want to continue this as a franchise, not a standalone film. And you want to make it part of a bigger product in the future. So this movie came out in 2017 after the 2014 release of the first film. In short, though, it managed to deliver on some of the same strengths that the first film had. Although that doesn't tell the whole story. It does have its flaws. The second film opens up with confirmation of that silly fun. That epic battle against a space monster played out in the background of the film with Groot dancing like he always is, and only becomes the focus to allow for other characters to show up and do their thing and join the fun. I thought that was really great. They're very consistent with that. This sense of silly fun combined with funny dialogue is what makes the film. It's the core of the film, and it's a consistent throughout, which I loved because it keeps the story engaging, it keeps it moving. There's never a dull moment, and it keeps you pretty grounded. Watching the film, you just, wow, this is exciting, especially with all the colors and the cinematography and just the amazing CGI that you have in this film. It keeps you pretty much engaged, and it's a constant. Like I said before, you add that to the music, which is amazing, just like the first film, the action and the overblown nature of it, and its continuation of the strengths of the first film. You know, there are three themes of family in this film, which are three different threads with emotional content between characters and different factions that take time to develop through the different timelines of this film. And throughout the film, its runtime, you see what I'm talking about. And not all of this works. It doesn't make or feel natural. It feels a bit rushed. It feels a bit heavier than we can bear at times. With that being said, while it doesn't totally work, it is still well judged, since less time on it would have lost a lot in the film. While more time would have tipped the balance too much in that direction. Although these individual moments of the film don't totally sit easily with the humor or pace, the effects and action look good. And while frantic and busy, I didn't find that the overwhelmed with empty noise in the way that it easily can happen with these things, right? The cast are all good when it comes to the comedy elements, although not all. So when the emotional stuff comes around, you have the beautiful Zoe Saldana, who plays Gamora, and newcomer to the film, Gillen, Miss Gillen, that's what I'm gonna call her, who plays Nebula. And I thought in this film, I didn't think the chemistry between those two women were top notch. I didn't think they worked well, although I feel like Rooker and Cooper did. Pratt, he's the best thing of the film. And, you know, when you have him in the film, all you're doing is asking for him to be fun, charismatic as he is throughout this film, throughout the first film, throughout the franchise in general up to this point. I loved him in Endgame. So imagine Chris Pratt was a perfect casting. And I feel like it was less effective in processing a lot about his father in this movie. That leads us to Bautista, who stands out as one of the best, I think, perhaps, because so much of his material was heavily fun-focused, you know? The many famous faces and small roles add to the weight of the film, sometimes not in a good way. And although they do add value, they also distract and fill out space, you know? Although it tries a bit too much and it doesn't stay away from areas which can be weak at times, this sequel plays to its strengths enough to please fans of the first film and to carry through the moments and aspects which don't work, as well as the core. And we got to think about it. Of course, the first film came out of nowhere. Literally, it caught a lot of people by surprise. But what really saved these films, I believe, the first one and this one, are the casting choices. Chris Pratt, I think, was a no-brainer. You bring in Zoe Saldana in that green. Not only she's sexy, but she gives that character this, you know, about her. She's very tough while being sexy, kind of like a bad Wonder Woman. That's the way I would put it. You have the addition of Nebula, played by Gillian. I love Bautista in his role as Drax. They gave him the ill backstory in the first film, and in this film, it's a little different for him, but he's still fun. I love the voices of Groot, and Rocket the Raccoon is one of my favorite funny men of the franchise, played by Bradley Cooper, respectively, and Vin Diesel. I believe the casting of this film is what makes it work. If anybody else was casted, I don't think these films would even be mentioned. Honestly, I don't think I'd be doing a review on these particular kind of films. Going into these films, I went into them pretty, you know, with really no expectation, especially the first one. The second one, I went with a grain of expectation because I really, really enjoyed the first film. But, you know, now that we established that these characters in this Marvel Universe, you know, we know their traits. We know that they like to have fun. Even with the conventions in general, breaking the fourth walls, just similar to what Deadpool does. I love that. And if you haven't seen the first one, go check it out. This one definitely comes close, but there was just a few misses for me. You know, when it comes to the love relationships between the sisters and the fathers, like this film definitely introduces. I think that's where it gets a little lost for me. You know, and while I do think this does, to me, it worked as a standalone film, the first film. I necessarily didn't think it needed a sequel, but I loved the addition of Kurt Russell. We had Sylvester Stallone in here, which was a great connection because they worked 30-something years ago on Tango and Cash, which is a movie that's kind of started that trend back in the 80s of that buddy cop movies. And those two I will always enjoy. They were treasures of the late 70s, 80s. Those were main fixtures, and they remain two of many favorite artists from back in the day. And I say it may be risky when it comes to liking this or not. You know, this is a film where the humor's there, though, and we come to understand in the MCU, they're added scenes. And if you stay for the film, after the film, you know, you're going to get a after credit scene, which there are 5 in total to be exact. So sit back, enjoy them. If you have a good time watching the film, that is, you know, fantasy and comedy mixed with a great outcome at the end of the day. You get so much for your money when you're watching a Marvel film. It's almost like you have to love it, you know, to love it. You're kind of forced to love it. And not to mention all the cameos that you get in here, like I mentioned. So if you're looking for a good grade, I did give this a good grade. I gave this movie 8 out of 10, respectively. You know, the last film I didn't really rate it because I thought it was awesome. You know, I gave that movie, if you go back to it and see, I didn't really give it a rating. That movie to me was 8.5 out of 10. This one drops just that, you know, percentage for me, but overall, this was a really good film. It's a good addition to the MCU franchise, and we look forward to Volume 3 coming very, very shortly. So definitely stay tuned, and that's the review for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. If you like this review, hit that like button, hit that notification bell, and if you want more content from me, all you have to do is subscribe to the next one. Peace.